Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio as we continue to celebrate so many wonderful people across the great state of Mississippi who are working in the trenches to make this such a wonderful place to live, work, and play. It's Wednesday, so in the second half of today's show, we have Singing River Health Talk, and a neurologist is going to be joining us today. I love doing Singing River Health Talk because there's such a wide variety of professionals, and they're so patient focused, and they're so technology and skills focused, and we get a chance to really zero in on that. So today we're actually going to be talking about head and facial pain with a specialist, a new doctor who actually went to medical school in Puerto Rico. So it's going to be an interesting story. So join me for the second half of today's show when we continue our really coveted show, Singing River Health Talk. But in the first part of the show, someone who knows Singing River quite well, I might add, is my friend Paige Roberts, who's the CEO of the Jackson County Chamber and someone I just love checking in with from time to time. Paige, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Ricky. Thank you. And when you were talking about the neurologist at Singing River, I thought you might be referring to Dr. Karcher. He is my neurologist with Singing River. I actually have a condition called essential tremor, which sometimes you can hear in my voice or see in my hands. And I see him for that. So they have a great neurology department.
Yeah, it's Dr. Sunobria Lopez is his name.
Okay.
And he's a board-certified urologist, and he's done really extensive training on headache and facial pain and all the interventions related to that. So a real high level of specialization. And as I mentioned, he went to neurology residency in Puerto Rico, and then he did some advanced fellowship at the University of South Florida. But he also came through Keesler, and we see this over and over again where these professionals, particularly through the medical center at Keesler, end up here in coastal Mississippi, and a number of them at Singing River Health System. So that seems to be a great feeder artery for the medical systems here in coastal Mississippi.
Well, and what's so especially important about that, Ricky, is that he's clearly bilingual, and that it serves the ever-growing Hispanic population, especially in Pascagoula. There's a significant population here, and so that's great to hear.
Yeah. Listen, you and I talk a lot about mental health, and of course what spurred that on wasn't just this, but certainly our conversations about the real, huge sense of urgency we had in the community to address teen suicide, and a lot of terrific work that's been going there. I've learned tremendous amount of Hope Squads and what's happening in Jackson County around that. More recently, though, is this discussion about mental health in general continues to evolve. The Jackson County Board of Supervisors has got involved. So the chamber has played such a great leadership role. And I say the chamber's certainly under your leadership, great leadership role in this discussion. But it takes a village, doesn't it? You think about the role Singing River Health System has played. You think about now the Board of Supervisors, and they're putting their leadership and money where their mouths are. It's been something to watch as the community has come together, isn't it?
Yes, and as you and I are both fans and avid readers of Brené Brown and her work in sociology, we know very clearly that the science says humans are hardwired for connection. Well, when you extend that train of thought to a community, which is obviously made up of a lot of humans, then communities are wired for connection. And the ability to be connected and then collaborate, all being in the same boat, rowing in the same direction to the same shore, then you see real progress. And that is what has happened with the Jackson County Board of Supervisors. I cannot speak profoundly enough about what it means to me as a community leader and a resident of Jackson County, that those supervisors put their resources toward creating a new region. We have just become Region 16, which is solely Jackson County. And in that region is standing up the new South Mississippi Mental Health Center. There is a director already in place, and I am the lead commissioner, the chairman right now, and that's all as the summer evolves. So will the standing up of this great center and the resources that are spread out across the county to meet all the various levels of mental health needs that exist, really from cradle to grave.
Yeah, gosh, it's it's something that we should talk about more. Aside from the work that we've done around Teens and Hope Squad, just the notion of mental health needs in our community. I immediately think about Angel, her work, and how she's, when she talks about her work as a DA and the mental health scenarios she has to deal with. We just don't have enough capacity. That's the bottom line in our community. We need more capacity.
That's right. But I would also interject there that we do as a society, and this I'm really talking very broadly here across the country, and each microcosm represents this as well, but we do a lot of talking about mental health in the sense of acknowledging it's a crisis, it's a problem, it's complex. But when you're actually watching leaders put that talk into the walk, that is where you see real leadership become real action. And that's what's meaningful. And that's what's going on in Jackson County.
Listen. I'm not asking you to get specific. I mean, you may have some specific where people have openly told their stories and so on. But what do you find in dealing with leaders, whether they're in the private sector or the public sector, who are saying, we're not going to talk about this anymore, we're going to do something? What motivates them? Is it their own experience with mental health, or someone in their family, or some experience, or just that they intuitively get it? Probably all of the above, but where's the motivation coming from?
Well, I think it is a variety of directions. One is, as you know, I and we, you and me, and several others have been hitting them over the head with it for a little while. But I will tell you, one of the big motivators was a simple, I think, bottom line motivator, and that is that the Chancery clerk, Josh Eldridge, deals with what's called the lunacy court, actually, and that goes through his office. And we are getting clobbered by the numbers, and the people who get committed, and the families that have to come in and have their relatives committed. All of that takes resources, and we were just drowning, and that is part of what pushed really this discussion to the top.
Yeah, usually the change will happen when there's a compelling case for action, but you have to have a leader who's willing to express it in a way that says, this is all of our problem.
Yes, and that is where you find the true leaders, like you said. Josh Eldridge had to be able to appropriately and effectively communicate that to his board of supervisors, and those 5 supervisors had to agree to put their power behind making this happen. And that's really a beautiful thing, Ricky.
It is. You know what's interesting? I've got to start kind of plucking off members of the Board of Supervisors and have them on my show, because repeatedly this particular board, no offense to the others in the past, but this particular board has been extremely action oriented. They have been leaders in the community, haven't they?
Yes, and I think it goes back to, again, we've talked about it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to raise a village. It really is something that has to be connected, and there has to be collaboration. And again, we're right back full circle in this conversation to the connection and the collaboration. And we do it well here in a lot of different areas. And the fact that we've now shown the same push and passion in mental health is just really going to help everyone.
Well, what's interesting is the more education the leaders in Jackson County get. I think about United Way's role and T. McCovey's role, and Jackson County Jackson. Well, I tell you what, we're at the end of the segment. I'll finish the thought on the other side. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with my friend Paige Roberts, who's the CEO of the Jackson County Chamber. And listen, the reality is that it does take a village, as we were talking about when we went to break. When in my book, Paige, I write about a village and I differentiate it from a tribe. The way I describe a tribe, and there's a chapter in my book called Dancing with Your Tribe, is your family and your closest friends, your inner circle. Those that through thick and thin. They are there. They stand the test of time over a long period of time, and that is you need to be aware of who they are, and you need to foster that group, and that's important. But the village is maybe a layer further than that. It's the connections, professional connections you gain, and the community connections that you gain. And it's about the community. It's about really developing this framework within the community, these relationships that in tough times can come to bear, whatever those tough times might be. And I the way I refer to it in my book is something someone mentioned to me many years ago. They said, think of your work in the community as a stamp book, and every time you do something in the community, you're putting a stamp in your book, and your goal is to fill your book up and then never use it. I love the way that is said. You fill your book up and never use it. In other words, you're doing these things in the community without the expectation of ever getting anything back, but you're just filling your book up. However, if the going ever really gets tough and you need your book, you don't have to redeem the stamps then. Your village just knows it's time for them to step up and help you. And that's kind of what's happening in Jackson County, isn't it?
Oh, sure. And as you know, we're well versed in adversity, and everyone's talking more about Hurricane Katrina as we approach the 20th anniversary. And as you know, my role at the Red Cross here at the time of Katrina and since gave me a lot of opportunity to do interviews. And I said in a lot of them that what truly saved us in the beginning was the Mayberry Network. And the Mayberry Network is what we're referring to today. It is that connection. So on a sunny day, that then helps the rainy days, whether they are literal or figurative, that helps us get through them. And that's just how it is.
It is. And every community should foster that. And every community has some aspect of it. There's no question about it. There's no question about it. But those hard times like a Katrina really bear them out. I mean, they bring them to bear. And that's when we find out what's made in the heart and souls of the people in that community and why leadership is so important. And my gosh, the lessons from that. Yeah.
What I think is also really important in this line of discussion is that in every community, you have the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. And when they intertwine and interweave in a fashion to make a fabric of solutions, that's when you have the secret sauce, so to speak. And that truly is what we see time and time again here is the private industries all the way to the small businesses, and you have our government agencies and the schools that make up the public sector, and then, as you mentioned, United Way and all of the other nonprofits. That's how you have successful community growth.
Listen, I'm so aware of what you mean when you say there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk. And one of the things that Katrina taught us is that even after Katrina, sometimes the type A personalities, bring all the attention to themselves, and they talk a big game. But when the going gets tough, we don't see them, And then others who are just quietly getting things done. I've talked to you about this before, but they exceed your expectation. It is amazing when you have leaders like in Jackson County that have your ear to the ground, listening to what's happening, and you can accomplish great things. And again, not to over talk about I don't think you can overly talk about it. Let's put that to bed. But the work to get Emma Benoit's inspiration, the work of Hope Squads, the conglomerate of public and private sector people you were able to bring together with help from Singing River Health System Foundation, and the educators and administrators and parents. And I mean, think about it. That's what not talking anymore is all about. That's called doing. And I just hope that we can inspire the rest of the state to embrace Hope Squads, and that communities don't learn the hard way, the way that Jackson County had to learn that you need to do this.
Well, and I will share some good news that this summer, the Hope Squad regional rep and I are working with 3 more counties that will be bringing Hope Squad to their school systems this fall. And 2 of those 3 are actually, all 3 of them want it from the elementary level up to 12th grade. So they're going system wide, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it is so brilliant. Gosh, it is such a brilliant approach. And oh my gosh, you start looking at these individual stories and you realize that I'm talking about the stories of young people who are in difficult times, or those who God rest their souls, who committed suicide. You think about how Hope Squad could have potentially saved them if they would have just had an outlet, if they would have understood that suicide is as Emma talks about, is such a permanent solution to such a temporary problem. And you just want to get to every single one of them, don't you?
Oh, of course. But, you have to, I have to step back and say, I can't save the whole world. I mean, it becomes an issue within my own mental health, right? But the encouragement that comes from celebrating the victories, even what might be considered a smaller victory as you go, that's how you win the war and go day by day. I think it's very interesting to note that one of the principals in Alabama who had Hope Squad now works for Hope Squad, but she was saying yesterday that after they implemented Hope Squad, the kids who were, chosen by their peers to be on the Hope Squad, their stress and anxiety went down because they were already the kids that other kids were bringing their problems to, but they weren't equipped with how to deal
Oh,
with
yeah,
all of that.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
Hope Squad gives them those tools, and now they felt more confident in what they were already naturally doing. So I thought that was a very interesting data point.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, and I think I can't help but think about St. Martin Senior, Vicky Vo, and the story she told here on the show, and then of course she was featured in the Hope in the Hallway documentary, which is so masterfully done by WLOX, and her speech at the Senate. And you think about where she was in her life, this drive toward perfection and not being able to handle it, and contemplating suicide, all the things that went through her head, and where she is today, and how this kind of unleashed her. That's just such a beautiful thing, man. I mean, and you know what? It will change her and people like her for the rest of their lives. It will change them because they've learned to connect with people and to deal with vulnerability, to learn, as Emma has just preached to us, that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. But it's just such a beautiful thing.
And sometimes, Ricky, it's the little things. I want to give a quick plug for something that the Chamber is doing on July 11th, and that is hosting one of our learning summits with behavioral psychologist Dr. Lisa Audemont. She's out of Ocean Springs and has done these learning summits before for us over the past year for the adults who also have trouble resolving conflict in a healthy way or need help building their resiliency. And the topic for July 11th, which will the topic is sleep and the importance of sleep, and quite frankly, the very negative impact the lack of sleep or poor sleep can have on each of us emotionally, physically, just in our overall well-being. It's going to take place at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College at their Jackson County campus in Goche at 8 a.m. in the cafeteria. And it's open to anyone who wants to come at no charge. The Chamber covers the cost of Dr. Audemont. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend people come learn about better sleep habits.
Yeah. Oh, boy, sleep is important, man. I track mine every single night. Hey, God bless you, my friend Paige. Keep up the great work in the community.
Thank you, Ricky.
When we come back, Singing River Health Talk. We'll see you after this.